Gotta do your warm up your voice a little bit. Me, 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 me.
Love.
There we go. Hello and welcome to Twincast. We're a podcast where we pick up old games, we kind of turn them over in our hands, we dust them off, and we look at them and we play them to see how they hold up today. Today it's just me and Clark, but we have a very heavy burden of talking about one of the most popular / played games in all of history. So I'm gonna turn it over to my fellow Tetramino Clark, and
Which Tetramino am I? Am I
well,
like the
I
obtuse
was trying to
one
think
that's like
about
the
this.
Z shape one, or am I the fat round or square one?
No, well, you're because you're my twin brother and my best
Maybe
friend. I'm just gonna
we're
say
the both
you're
we're
the
both the
long
Z.
you're the long
Oh,
I
okay.
beam. Yeah, the big long.
I was gonna say maybe we're just like the Z shaped ones, but you're like the mirror of mine.
Yeah, that's true. I can be the right one and you can be the left one.
Okay.
All right. Well, if you haven't figured out, we're talking about Tetris. Um, and obviously, this is a game that was very important to us as we were growing up. It was omnipresent in the Nintendo and Game Boy era, and we'll talk a little bit about our experiences with that. But before we get going too far into this discussion, let's just tell you a little bit about us. We're a podcast. We're a Game of the Month podcast. We pick a game, we play it, and then we get together once a month and we talk about it. So next month we're going to be playing the SNES classic Secret of Mana. So if you're interested in playing along with us, pick it up and give it a shot. So are you excited about Secret of Mana, Clark?
Yeah, that's one of those ones that kind of has a little special place in my heart, just because um, I played it. I did play it, but not actually a lot. I watched Tim play it, but I also really liked the game that came before it. We played that a lot on the same machine that we're going to be talking about today on the Game Boy. So, yeah,
Yeah.
there's definitely a special place in my heart for that game.
And we'll talk a little bit about that more next month. So let's get down to it. Let's talk a little bit about Tetris. Everyone knows what Tetris is. Everyone knows it is a puzzle game that came out of Russia in the early 80s. I'm going to just throw it over to you, Clark. Give us the basic overview of how Tetris was viewed as we were growing up.
Well, I mean, we're talking about like the early 80s when it was first coded in the USSR, but it didn't really come to light for Western audiences until like probably 1987, 1988, 1999, in that period. And I'm sure the first time that I ever really heard about it was in like Nintendo Power. We did read Nintendo Power. We had friends who had Nintendo Power, although I don't think we ever had a subscription ourselves. I would at least read their Nintendo Powers. And I think it really, in my mind, became prevalent when it centered around the Game Boy. Obviously, the Game Boy was not the first version, was not even the third version, or it was kind of down the line a little bit, but it was what really brought it into cultural awareness, I think, for a lot of kids around our age, because it was bundled in as the sort of killer app for the Game Boy. And at that age, I was just fascinated with the Game Boy, and I wanted it, and I knew that Tetris was like what it came with, and that was really my first like actual knowledge of Tetris, even though I probably read about it in Nintendo Power, is when we, got our Game Boy, opened it up, and played it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you remember this, but we also had it on our NES. Do you
We
remember?
did, but I don't know which came first.
I'm pretty
I
sure
want
we
to.
had it on the NES first. I mean, it's possible because we had our NES before we had our Game Boys. I
My most of my memories center around the Game Boy, though. Like for some reason.
Oh, for sure, we definitely played it on the Game Boy way more than on the NES because of the portability. We could take it into our own separate rooms and just play it whenever we wanted. But I'm almost thinking we had the well, I think we might have had the Nintendo version first. But the reason I say because one of my first memories is remember watching Nikki play Tetris. That's one of those games that you could get like your older sisters or to play, and even maybe some parents. I think I kind of have a vague memory of mom trying to play Tetris.
Well, I was actually telling Amanda this, and so I don't know. I guess you probably don't have this memory, but I there was two games I remember our dad playing. It was Duck Hunt, and it was this game. So I do have this very distinct memory of dad sitting in like the chair in the living room while we were in the kitchen, and I remember he was playing Tetris, and I remember him going, "Everyone quiet, shh, shh," and then he dropped the line to make a Tetris, and it made the Tetris noise. He's like he wanted everyone to listen to the Tetris noise, and that is probably my number one early memory of Tetris, in that it was good enough to make my dad like play it even a little bit was crazy.
So I was also talking to my wife about this game, and she mentioned how her dad had some like he got like some knockoff at Goodwill or whatever, just a handheld that played like a Tiger version of Tetris, and he would let her play that sometimes, just like those one of those little Tiger handhelds. We had some of those. Remember those crappy
Yep,
things?
I def. I still got them. In fact, I can pull them out and we can play with something if we wanted to this day.
You still got those?
Yeah, I do. I still got I got like Bart versus the Space Mutants one, and
Did we had some like sea battle one?
there's a Snake Eyes one that we
Oh
have,
yeah,
like
GI Joes.
a GI Joe Snake Eyes one. I think those are the ones that have persisted, but I know we had one or two others
We should
too.
maybe talk a little bit about those Tiger handheld
Yeah,
games. They were quite the interesting little niche in our video
yeah,
game.
they're like the evolution of the Game and Watch for people who don't know what these Tiger handheld are. So if you go and find out what the Game and Watch was about, it's kind of the evolution of that.
Yeah, they're not the greatest games, but they were still something you could play in the car before we had a Game Boy.
Hmm.
So anyway, back to Tetris. So my wife really enjoyed playing um, that little LCD handheld that her dad had. So yeah, like you said, this game spans it spans all kind of age, sex, religion, whatever. People love Tetris. We can brush over the quick little history uh, of Tetris. Lexi Pajnitov programmed this game in Russia in 1984, and back then it was still Cold War Soviet Union, and so he knew that this game would have to be controlled by the state because they're obviously communist Russia, and so he gave the rights to the video game Tetris to Russia for 10 years. Um, but that didn't mean they had to keep it behind the the wall there, though. There's some drama, as many people will know, of getting um, Tetris to the wide world. Do you have any knowledge of what happened with Tetris as it came to the Western world?
I have seen some documentaries on the fact. I actually didn't watch it leading up to this. I, for anyone who wants to like really dive into it, it's a very interesting story. I don't think I can speak authoritatively like with my memories on it right now, but I just know that getting it out of there was a little bit tricky, and there was a lot of mix up on the rights, and so that's why you have like kind of some varying versions of it, and even some gray market versions of the game before the rights were kind of really ironed out. I know there was like handheld rights, and there were console exclusive rights, and like computer rights, and I think maybe even arcade rights. All of that stuff was kind of, very muddy at first. Um, and it's an interesting story, but that's not what we're here to really tell,
Yeah.
other than, it was people identified really early that it was going to be like the next big thing, and there was a kind of a scramble to get out of uh, the USSR at the time.
Yeah. I think for our purposes here, I think another big player is Hank Rogers. He's the guy who negotiated for Bulletproof software to develop it in Japan, and that's what kind of gave Nintendo the console exclusive there early on, and then also included it with their Game Boy, which was, as Clark had said earlier, the big the big thing about Tetris is it bundled in with the Game Boy, and I'm fairly certain that is the most played version or sold version of Tetris ever is the Game Boy version. So I just, as we get into talking a little bit about Tetris here, let's talk about a little bit about these early versions. Um, Tell me a little bit about the Game Boy version that stuck out to you, and what made it so special.
So yeah, I mean, like what makes it special is just the kind of the confluence of things around it. Like, um, video games were obviously a big part of my life, and it was huge to be able to take video games on the go. I think we mentioned before on this podcast, but my our parents, had a cabin, and so that was actually a big deal for us to take the Game Boy because it was like a 3 hour drive up to that cabin, and I can just remember a lot of times sitting there in our dad's F-150, uh, in the bed of the truck with the camp shell topper on it, playing Tetris as we went up. And that's really what made it special. Is like, of course, the game wasn't in color. It was the really lo-fi, not even black and white, like whatever green and black
Yeah,
colors of the Game
green.
Boy.
Yeah.
But it didn't matter because it was portable and you can take it with us. And we played that game pretty well, even like past like what would have been considered the normal life of the Game Boy. I remember I have a pretty strong memory of going to Universal Studios in 1996, and it was kind of one of the last like family vacations we went before our sister Nikki, I think, uh,
Got married.
got married,
Yeah.
and she went with us, and we were crammed in this little Corolla, and so it was the car was full. It was the five of us, our parents and us three in there, and I remember us three passing the Game Boy that we had around with Tetris was the primary, and we had like a little high score contest between the three of us. Um, I don't remember who
I don't
came out on
remember.
top.
I,
I think we had arguments. I remember we were like there was some sort of contention on who actually won that
I don't know.
contest.
I felt like I always did the best on the B mode. I, you do the B mode and you put it all the way, slam it all the way to the top, so it's always the fastest, and see if you can bring it down. But did we ever
Well, and
play
there's
much on the link cable, Clark? Do you remember? I don't
what's
remember.
funny. What's funny is I don't. We probably had the capability, but I don't actually remember us doing that very much. So we didn't, not to my knowledge. I don't know if you remember this, Cam, but I remembered you and I would actually, separate from that trip, we would do little challenges. Do you remember there was like a little Easter egg, or I don't know if you would call it a secret or a code or whatever, but if you held down on the D-pad on the start screen and then you started the game, then it would go even faster. It was like a turbo mode. And I remember you and I would go to the turbo mode and we would turn it to the highest difficulty, which was level 9, and we would see which of us could get the best score in that mode as it was falling super fast. And it was really unforgiving back in that time. So later versions would make it so that you could like keep spinning the piece around and it wouldn't like place. No, there was nothing forgiving about it at that point. So
Yeah, I
um,
remember that, and that's kind of specifically what I was talking about. We would also do it in B mode too, that and the normal mode. But yes, I remember that, and us having heated arguments about um, would be better. But here's some a little spoilers. Clark and I played this recently over link cable, and Clark beat me. So
I eked out just the smallest of wins. This was at a family picnic in like next to a pavilion, and it's like best of five, I
we
think.
did best of five, and Clark
So
won three to
first,
two.
yeah, 3-2. So, um, and it's one of it's actually pretty, I don't know, advanced for the time, I think, with the link cable. Like there's like a little bar that you can kind of see where their top is at, and then when you clear stuff, it sends it to the bottom of theirs and it pushes everything up. So it's a little bit of push and pull, because if you send just little bits over at a time, it actually can hurt you, because then they can send bunches back to you in opportune times. But yeah, it's for a 1989 Nintendo game. It was pretty advanced for its multiplayer at the time, which I was a little bit surprised of too.
So that Game Boy game, like, pretty much had it all. Like, it was the portability, the addictiveness of the game, and believe it or not, the music was like just get an earworm, incredible earworm that would just get in your head. And I've actually just been playing in my head the past few days because I've been playing several versions of Tetris to prepare for this, and almost all the later versions has the same music as that Game Boy version.
Well, at least the Nintendo ones. I don't think that music, is it copyrighted by Nintendo, or I
No,
cause,
because they're Russian folk songs.
is that what
So
they are?
yeah,
Okay.
they're just Russian folk songs, and so Nintendo just took Russian folk songs that they didn't have to pay any royalties to, and just ported
Yeah.
them over.
I will say they are great, like memorable tunes. I think a lot of that is though because when you played it, they're like 30-second loops, and you heard it for hours and hours and hours on end. And I don't know if we want to dig into this, but I put several versions of Tetris in front of my family over the last week or so, and that was one of the things that my wife and son kind of brought up, is that like they got tired of the loop of music, because it's not, I mean, while it's good, I think today's gamer, it's a little bit harder to just listen to that loop over and over again.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that we would probably mute it back in the day too after a while, because when you get sick of it. I mean, the Game Boy came with these little really crappy headphones, and I doubt I would have wanted to have listened to that over and over again.
Yeah, and there's 3 songs, I think,
Yeah,
on the
there's
Game
three
Boy version.
songs.
Like song A, B, and C or something.
Yes, and A is the best, but the other ones were pretty good too. So, and I did like how on the Game Boy version how Nintendo did back in the day. They brought in Mario and Luigi for the multiplayer version. So one player is Mario, one's Luigi. So that's kind of cool. But other than that, it's just it's classic Tetris. Um, all right, so obviously, that's the most popular and most played version of Tetris. Let's go on from this in Clark's experience. When did you pick up Tetris again in your later life after the Game Boy version?
Well, I mean, there were probably some versions that I played after the Game Boy between the one that I'm going to mention here, but I don't really remember. I'm sure that there was like time I pulled it up on an emulator, some different version. But the next time that I could really think about getting, and this is one that I booted up and played, is um, Tetris DS. And I got a DS when I was back east selling in my college days, and it was one of the things that kept me sane. I would do those door-to-door sales, and I had the DS, and one of them was Tetris, and it's a fun version of Tetris, and there's a lot more modes around it. There's a lot more like happening graphics wise. Just Nintendo's, you got like Zelda characters and Metroid, and Mario characters are just like doing little animations around. But it has like the classic mode, but it also has, I think the other mode that kind of stood out to me is there's this like mode where you catch uh, you have like a little block in the middle, and you can rotate the whole block around, and you're catching the pieces as they come in. So you get this kind of monstrosity of a block, and you try to. It's not clearing lines; it's like clearing squares instead.
So
But you don't want.
is it a 3D space? You're moving
No,
your
it's still
oh,
two. It's still 2D, and think of you're starting with a square, and pieces are dropping down from the top, and when they hit your square, they fuse with your square, and then you could rotate that square left or right to try and grab other pieces as they're coming down,
okay.
and so your thing gets pretty unwieldy if you aren't managing the size of it and paring it down. And that was like an interesting version of Tetris that was, I think, uh, at the time different for me and fun to play. I think, at least for me at that time,
Did it use
was
touch
kind of.
controls? Does it use touch controls?
I'm sure you could. I didn't when I pulled it out and played it for a couple hours. I didn't use the touch controls, but and then one that I know that you can probably talk about is Tetris Effect. I've pulled that out, and it's probably been 9 or 10 years ago that it came out. Maybe not nine. Well,
2018, I think. 2017 or 2018. So yeah, it was like
okay,
like 9 years ago.
yeah. They actually have a PS5 version that you could upgrade to, and I do have the VR for it as well, and so I was playing it in VR, and it's a really cool version. I will say though that like the VR and the visuals and things all around it, like while it makes things more interesting, it's not technically a better game. I think it's the same game, and there are a few more advances in it, but really, I don't think it matters which version you grab.
So, since we're talking about Tetris Effect here, the music in Tetris Effect is great, and it's not boring, and it switches up often, especially if you're playing like the story mode, the adventure mode,
It's
whatever it is.
it's like contextual too, which is pretty cool
Yeah,
because it builds with you as you're playing. So like different tracks will come on and off depending on how you're progressing through the level. It's pretty cool.
so, and then it uses, I mean, the biggest development in Tetris is the hold thing, because in those early games, you couldn't hold a piece. And we know how crucial it is to when you get those lines to be able to hold that line for whenever you need it to drop and get that Tetris. So there's that in Tetris Effect. And then the other thing that's big in Tetris Effect is they have that like pause mode where you
Yeah, like a
pause it.
Zen mode.
Yeah, and then you try to get as many like Tetrises as you can, and then you can get
Or
like
just lines. Yeah.
yeah,
Tetrises are obviously better, but just how many of your lines you can stack up while you're in the pause mode gives you a better multiplier.
yeah. So I was just gonna go over my brief history of Tetris, and it probably culminates in Tetris Effect as the most recent one. So I won't talk about that again. But um, after like you, I dabbled with some. I played one of the advanced versions, and I can't remember where I got
The
I think
Game Boy Advance.
yeah, Game Boy Advance one, and it wasn't very good. And I didn't play it for
I
very
played
long.
one of them. I played one of those on the lead up to this, and I didn't play it for very long because
Yeah,
yeah,
it
it was
wasn't
not very
very
good.
good. Um, I did in the past week. If we're, I just want to mention that I booted up the 3D Tetris that was on Virtual Boy.
Oh,
There's
I don't. I've
because
never
I
played it.
on my 3DS I have an emulator for the Virtual Boy on the 3DS, and so I booted it up and I could play it in 3D, and um I played it, and it is like actual like 3D Tetris, like you're building like a three-dimensional, I mean, think of like a Jenga block kind of thing, but Tetris pieces. And I
So
played it
do you
for
actually have? Do you have to actually like clear off like a like 10 by 10 flat grid or something before it
it's
goes
not that
away?
much. It's like maybe I don't even know, maybe 6 to 8. Uh, Short story is I played it for like 5 minutes and I was like, this isn't fun. And it wasn't fun.
The simplicity of the 2D version is actually what makes it work.
Yeah. And then the other Tetris game that I wanted to mention, like I said, there's a million Tetris games, but Puyo Puyo Tetris is really fun. That's one that I got my whole family to play together.
That's a Switch game, right?
Yeah, it's on Switch. It's on Steam. I have Puyo Puyo Tetris 2 on Steam. I played Puyo Puyo Tetris 1 on Switch a lot, and it's one that me and my family, because you can play 4 players on that one, and it's a blast. You're switching between Puyo Puyo and Tetris things like the favorite mode that we had is everyone starts with like Puyo Puyo and then it switches to Tetris.
No, you call it Puyo Puyo, but I call it Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine.
Yeah, I guess maybe we should take a second here since I brought up Puyo Puyo Tetris, but back in the time when Tetris came out, there was a million like other games like Tetris, and you want to just mention, maybe give your Mount Rushmore of puzzle games from the.
Well, I mean, obviously, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. My favorite one outside of this was probably Super Puzzle Fighter. That was like gems that you would build to form.
Yeah,
drop to form
it's
bigger
more
gems.
it's more in the Puyo Puyo vein than it is Tetris side, but yes. Do you remember Dr. Mario? Obviously.
Yes, there's Dr. Mario. There's like Yoshi's Cookie.
Yoshi's Cookie was my least favorite of those ones.
I really did like Dr. Mario. In fact, let me just, while we're talking about it, you're talking about Puyo Puyo Tetris. Before Puyo Puyo Tetris, there's actually a mashup that was Dr. Mario and Tetris on the Super Nintendo.
Oh, I never played that one.
And I pulled that one up, and it's good. Like, it's actually pretty standard of both those games. Like, it's not too fancy versions of Dr. Mario or Tetris. In fact, it's probably a cart when we do our retro game show here in a couple months. I'm going to be looking from vendors who might have that cartridge, because I actually had never played it before, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Oh, well, yeah. Does it have multiplayer? I'm sure it does, right?
Yes. It doesn't really mix the modes too much. There is a mode where you do like alternate, like you do a round of Tetris and then a round of Dr. Mario and a round of Tetris, and it's multiplayer, so you're kind of like moving between the different modes, and you're like racing the other person through the modes. And yeah, it was definitely interesting, and one that I'm gonna probably dig out and play a little bit more even after we're done talking about it here.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested in that one, because like the Puyo Puyo Tetris version, it's a blast, because Sega did a really good job of mixing the two games. There's like a million different versions. There's a story version, and just like this one's got my interest peaked, because I want to check it out to see how Nintendo did it. It sounds like actually Nintendo did it first and Sega copied it. But is there any other versions you want to give a shout out here? Tetris 99, did you play that one?
I did play Tetris 99, and there's some like screenshots of me winning Tetris 99 once or twice.
Whoa.
So, oh yeah, I gotta rep it. So that was interesting. I don't even know if it's still around. It was like one of the early reasons to subscribe to Switch Online was Tetris 99. And so yeah, that was a fun version. If it's still around, I would recommend people try that. I'm sure that there's probably a million free to play Android and iOS versions as well. I have not played any of those, and I'm actually didn't pull them up intentionally of this because I knew I would be sad at all of the monetization schemes probably built around those games these days. But
you can go into your browser right now, just type Tetris, and you can play a browser version for free. And I didn't boot it up since I've played the good versions already. I'm sure it's fine, and it's good. But let me tell you, that nothing beats having an actual like handheld in your hand and playing Tetris. if you need to kill 10 minutes, like every once in a while, if I get tired of playing, messing around on my phone, pulling out my analog pocket and just, I will boot up just the Game Boy version of Tetris and play it. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
So
This might be an appropriate time just to kind of expound upon me handing it to my. I handed it to my son, and I actually. I, I'll get into this a little bit more when we talk about giving it its grade. I think that kids these days need something a little bit extra to get into a game like this. Just because most games that kids are doing, they've been so like what's the way to put it? They've been so like uh casinofied.
overstimulated. Oh yeah, it's
Yeah,
casinofied.
casinofied is the way I would do it. Like everything is like designed to be flashy, to keep your hooks into you, and to kind of keep people playing forever. Um, that's not the way that these games were designed back in the day. And so when you, if like he's 12, he picks it up, and if he doesn't have like a reason to like keep going, like we did because this is like the only thing we had, it's a little bit hard. It's a little bit harder to keep going, right? So I told him that I would pay him $5 for each level that he cleared, and that really like gave him a good reason to give it a good shot. And he kept playing it, and he was playing it late into the night. So and
You
he thought
became
it
the
was
casino.
I became the casino, yes, and so I gamified it a little bit for him. Um, and I actually did the same thing with my wife. I handed it to her, and because she heard me, she's like, "Are you gonna pay me to play this?" I'm like, "Yes. If you beat level 5, I'll take you out to a nice dinner." And she did. She played until she beat level 5.
Awesome. Did your daughter not have an interest in playing Tetris, or was she just too busy?
When we were kind of doing this, she was at work, so she didn't. She's played Tetris before, and she knows what it was, but she wasn't kind of into this little experiment that I did. But I will say that like both my son and wife got into it, they were hooked, and you could tell like when the thing started to build up, and like they made a wrong placement of a piece, they would be like, "Ah!" They do the frustrating yell, and they would be so anxious about the everything stacking up. So that part still holds up. Like when you get into it, there's nothing that really beats that anxiety.
Well, I think the every Tetris player's lament is they don't give you enough line pieces. Like you're always waiting for that line piece,
Yep.
and I'm always screaming for that line piece. One thing I did notice, I booted up the Nintendo version earlier today, and just to kind of compare it to the Game Boy version, the Nintendo version tells you how many of the pieces it's sent you, and I was waiting for one of the T pieces, because you know how you sometimes get one little block that you can only get fill in with like a T piece or whatever. And you're waiting to fill in that little space block. So I kept on waiting for it because I needed specifically a T piece. And by the time I got to level 4, I had 0 T pieces, and it made me mad. So random.
Rigged.
It's not random. I'm telling you. It
It's
knows
rigged.
it knows what pieces you need, and it doesn't give you them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually one of the first times I can remember feeling like the game was screwing me over was in Tetris for sure.
Yep, and that's why being able to hold that one piece is great. All right, I think we've pretty much covered it all here. Tetris is a classic game that still is going strong today, and I think we need to deliberate here and put a bow on this before we give it a grade, Clark. I want you to expound on your feelings on Tetris and how it's impacted your life and how it makes you feel when you play it today, Clark. I want you to focus on your feelings and share it with our audience, and then give it a score.
Tetris has made me the man I am today. There's there's no doubt that the doubt doesn't even cast a shadow.
Whoa.
No, I'm just kidding. It's like a core part of like my childhood, and I know that this is like one of those like shared cultural events that I was a part of, and that's one of the things that you kind of don't get as much. Than like my kids. I kind of see this. There are some shared cultural things with my kids, but I don't think it's quite to the same level. Like it's kind of hard to explain to them and maybe here that like when something was big in the 80s and 90s, it was like big everywhere, and it was almost like a monoculture kind of event. Now like entertainment is so segmented, and you can kind of just choose and pick whatever you want, and which is a good thing. I'm not saying that is actually a better thing, but this is one of those things where it felt like you were participating in something that was monumental at the time when you were playing Tetris, and so that's why it's a huge part of my culture. And when I'm 90, I'll still be digging up some version of Tetris to give it a whirl. It's just that ingrained in me at this point.
So we go 1 to 6. 6 being this is the best. Not only was it a great game then, it's a great game now, and it could win like game of the year if it came out today. And then 5, it would be like this is a great game, and I still pick it up and play it all the time. All the way down to like 1, this wasn't a good game then, and it's not a good game now. Forget this game. So where on that scale would you put Tetris?
So it's interesting. There are some newer versions of Tetris, and we've talked about them, but I almost think it doesn't really matter which version you get, unless it's like maybe some free to play version that requires you to spend 5 different kinds of currency or something like that. Don't play that kind of game. Just find some free version to play. It's just like a timeless recipe, and it is simple. And I think that knowing that if I was recommending it to today's kids, I would tell them to be patient getting into. There's maybe it's not quite as like eye catching as some of the other things that you might have played in the future, or in the past. But I think that it's still as clean and simple and fun as ever. So I would say this is going to be like A tier, like a 5 game still today. Um, and I think that my experience handing it to my kids and my wife backs that up.
So this is a little tougher to grade as some of the things that you've mentioned. There's so many different versions of Tetris. Um, like if I was to dust off the Game Boy version today and say, "Hey, look, play this. Is it one of the best games today?" A lot of people would say, "Well, nah, I don't know. I don't like this." Obviously, you and I, we have the nostalgia for that game. But I mean, if you pulled out Tetris Effects and said, "Hey, come play this game," a lot of people will sit down and even if they've never played Tetris before, and say, "Hey, yeah, this is a cool puzzle game. It's got some awesome music. It's got and some of that casinoification that you talk about." Um, and so I just think the idea of Tetris is timeless, like you said, and therefore I don't think this game can get even lower than like a 4. And so I'm gonna give it like a 4.5. I love Tetris, and I still play it. I don't have as much love for it or I'm not as addicted as I used to, as I was in the past, but it's still a great game today, and I would hope that everyone gets the chance to at least try Tetris nowadays. So um, that so you said 5, I said 4.5, and so our combined would be 4.75.
Yeah.
I can do a little bit of math when there's just two of us.
Don't have to pull out the calculator for that one.
um, so yeah, thanks for joining us today. Clark and I, we are getting together. We've maybe talked a little bit around this, and we're going to a convention, and we're going to try some live podcasts here in the future. We live here in Utah, and there's a retro gaming expo that happens every year in August. We're gonna have a booth there. If you're listening to this, you live in Utah and you want to come to Layton, Utah, August 8th, I think, August 8th. We'll be there. We'll have our games set up. You can come over and play. Tell us about your favorite video games. Um, Maybe challenge us in a speed run and come talk to us. Tell us about your favorite video game. Is there anything else about this event that you would like to maybe mention to everyone, Clark?
Well, I was just looking on this. It's just to confirm the dates. It's August 7th through the 8th. And it's at the Davis Conference Center. So we'd love to see you there. I don't remember our booth number right now. I guess we could look it up, but we'll just be at the very back wall.
Yes, come find us, talk to us. We'd love to hang out. That's what video games are to Clark and I. It's a way to connect to other people, to have shared experiences. Um, just like any forms of media, you can build bonds around these video games, and we want to know your experience with video games. It's not the same as ours, and we want to hear your experience so we can bond with you. Um, yeah, so come hang out with us. Um, Shoot us an email if you can't make it, and talk to us. We'd love to interact with you. All the ways you can get a hold of us are here in the podcast notes. So, anyways, that's Twincast, and we're out.
Bye.
Pre and post game.
Pre
Yeah,
and post game.
we can have like a tailgate.
Tailgate, yes. Get
Oh,
out, get out the hot dogs and the sausages and crack a cold one.